Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for another exciting and informative Global Cruise Line webinar to learn everything about the latest updates from Holland America Line. My name is Johanna de Guzman. I am the Manager of Industry Relations for North American Travel Trade Membership here at CLIA, and I'm going to quickly go through some housekeeping before introducing our presenters. The presentation will run for about 45 to 50 minutes with time for questions at the end. Please feel free to type your questions into the questions module of the webinar, and we will get to them at the conclusion of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on CLIA's YouTube channel, CLIA Global. It is my pleasure to introduce your presenters, Rob Colvin and Megan Ziegler. Since joining Holland America's Line Sail team in 1999, Rob has held progressive positions in all disciplines of the Holland America Line Sales organization. From a grassroots start in inside sales to his leadership in building the company's large portfolio of full ship charters, Rob has made an undeniable impact in each of his roles. Appointed as Senior Vice President of Sales for both Holland America Line and Seabourn, he continues to grow his passion for forging strong and thriving trade partnerships. Joining Rob today is Megan Ziegler, Senior Manager of National Accounts and is based in Phoenix. Megan brings a great knowledge and lots of expertise in travel sales, marketing, and promotions. She has been with Holland America Line for 6 years and is passionate about working closely with travel agent partners to provide memorable vacation experience to their travelers. And with that, the floor is yours, Rob and Megan.
Thank you so much. And Megan, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Rob. And thank you, CLIA, for hosting us. Your leadership and advocacy in the cruise industry is amazing, and we're so grateful to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Megan, what are we here to talk about today?
My favorite place in the world, Alaska. And I'm so excited to share with you not just the passion that Rob and I have about Alaska, but what is upcoming and how your clients can really benefit and have memorable vacations when they're joining us in Alaska.
That's right. And we're going to talk about our 2026 product, which is the cruises are open and the cruise tours will be open November 7th for booking. But before we do that, Megan, I just wanted to talk a moment. You and I have known each other now going on 6 years. We met on New Statendam in Venice when the ship came out of the shipyard. And I've just really loved seeing your progression and your growth in our company. And you have done such a great job in your first in your territory in the southwest of the United States, and then as you moved into national accounts. So I am so happy, and I know everyone on here is going to benefit from your insights to your experiences up in Alaska and your product knowledge.
Thank you. This is very near and dear to me. Before I worked for Holland America, I actually was on the travel agency side as an account manager, and Holland America Line was my #1 go-to for groups and Alaska. So I'm grateful to be able to share not just my knowledge and experience I've had in this past 6 years, but also what led me to be at Holland America and the success I had as an agency manager.
Well, we have there's only one slide that I'm going to show twice today, Megan, and that is this one that has the QR code, because we are asking our advisor partners to vote for Holland America Line as Best in Alaska in the Travel Weekly Reader's Choice Awards. And again, I will show this at the end. And, you know, we don't want you just to take our word for it. We hope either you have sent your clients to Alaska on Holland America Line and they've come back just overwhelmed with the authentic experience they had, or after you hear everything we want to share about our 2026 program, you'll agree with us that we are the best in Alaska. Megan, if you think about why we are best in Alaska, would you share a little bit of insight on your thoughts on why we're best in Alaska?
For me, it really comes down to the expertise that we have and how we highlight that for our agents' clients when they're on board. It is the the knowledge and the partnerships that we have built over the 78 years that we're going to be sailing to Alaska in 2025. And our glacier guarantees, we'll talk more in depth about these, but the detail that we go into explain the glaciers, to highlight the glaciers, to highlight the wilderness and wildlife that are in Alaska. And these are the top reasons that your clients want to go to Alaska. One of the other big reasons for me why Alaska is so important and why Holland America is best is when you look at the data, Alaska is a lead-in cruise destination for new business, people who have never cruised before. And one thing that Holland America really stands out with in this area is our mid-size ships. For those folks, it might be a little overwhelming to get on the larger ships, but Holland America is refreshingly uncrowded. But what about for
Not
you?
only
What is yours?
not only are we refreshingly uncrowded, our ships were built for scenic cruising. So if that one photo we have up now, if you look at all the open deck space and look at the bow with our guests out in the front, where our crew and our service team are out serving them Dutch pea soup and hot chocolate, and making they get to be up close. So yes, it's about glaciers. People go to Alaska to see the glaciers, so you're spot on. People go to Alaska to see wildlife, whether on land or marine wildlife. People go to Alaska because they've heard of Denali and they want to go to one of the most majestic peaks in the world and the largest in North America. They want to have an authentic Alaska experience. They want to experience Alaska seafood, and they dream about riding through the wilderness and wonderland of Alaska in one of our domed rail cars. So let's go a little bit deeper for them and share more about what we have to offer. So there are two ways to see Alaska with Holland America Line. So how do you like to present the two ways we can we can take guests into Alaska?
I think the number one question that advisors normally get when people come in and ask about Alaska, especially new to cruise, is when is the best time to go? And my canned answer for that is always, when do you have the longest? When can you spend the most time up in Alaska? We do offer a very robust 7, 14, 28-day cruise only program, but where the real magic comes in for Alaska is when you get to combine that ocean experience of the cruise and getting up into the interior of Denali and really experiencing what the interior of Alaska has to offer. When you cruise to Alaska, it's 1% of the coastline. It's a beautiful 1%, but that is such a small part of this incredible state.
You brought up a great point. People do often ask, when is the best time to go to Alaska? And they are hoping we're going to offer the 1 or 2 weeks of the year when everything is perfect. But the reality is you can't decide to go to Alaska based on weather. And it comes down to, again, when can you invest the most time to really see Alaska? And then 2, what do you want to see? Because the weather is undependable, but the rhythm of the wildlife and the flora and fauna is predictable. So there are things that you will experience early in the season, and there are things that you will experience in the mid part and towards the end of the season. If you want to see the salmon spawning, walking through the town of Ketchikan, you need to go in August and into September. The salmon don't spawn in May and June. If you want a chance to see northern lights, you have a better chance towards the mid to late season. But if you want to see the pristine Alaska and have the best chance to see wildlife before they are foraging and harder to see, they're coming out of the winter of their winter and are actually a little bit disoriented, and it's often the time you get to see the land-based wildlife. So it's really about what you want to see and how much time you have. I completely agree. Let's dig deeper on glaciers.
So Rob, in your 26 years at Holland America, you've seen this evolve, this program evolve. What excites you most about our current glacier program with our Glacier Days?
First, I love how we have leaned into making an entire day on every 7-day cruise all about glaciers. It'll be the day when we take our guests to a tidewater glacier and they sail up to the front. Hopefully they can go out on the bow, hear the calving, and hear the ice break away from the front. which is what everyone wants to hear. We wrap it up with all kinds of information about the geology and the formation and the lifeline or the lifeline of a glacier so that they understand it. But I think people forget that there are many ways to see a glacier. It's not only about sailing up to it on one of our vessels. You can helicopter and do an excursion and actually land up at at the top of the glacier where the ice starts to flow down it. You can sled dog on a glacier. You can go out and sea kayak and get closer to a glacier. There are inland glaciers you can get to, like Mendenhall. So glaciers are a large part of what we try to offer to our guests.
I think you're absolutely right on just the special day on board, but also the access that we have through our shore excursion program. I just hosted a FAM in August, and one of the things that highlights me most about this experience is being able to have the entire group on the bow of the ship as we sailed up to Marjorie Glacier and getting that group picture. It is just such an amazing access point, and really the experts that we bring on board, not just on the day, but the day before to prepare people for that Glacier Day experience is so critical to really making the most of that day and understanding just how important this spectacular day of scenic cruising is.
One of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Alaska is Glacier Bay National Park, and we actually are very fortunate to have the most passes during the summer season to sail into Glacier Bay, and the majority of our Alaska sailings do go into Glacier Bay. That is not something that other cruise lines can offer, and it's not that the other glacier experiences aren't amazing and wonderful, but it is a national park. There is a national park ranger that comes on and does narration and education for our guests. It's a beautiful day because you sail in for a couple hours before you start getting to the actual Tidewater glaciers, and then it's a beautiful sail out. Going to Glacier Bay is such a special experience. And what happens if, by chance, someone can't see a glacier on one of their Holland America Line cruises that we intended to have in our itinerary?
So I love that we are the first in the industry to introduce this program, and mainly because it does also speak to those new to cruise who have a little bit more roadblocks and objections that you need to overcome. This gives them peace of mind. We are so confident in our ability to get your clients into glaciers. We put a guarantee behind that. So we've launched our Glacier Guarantee in 24, and it does guarantee that glacier experience, or we will automatically do a 15% FCC for all of your clients and everyone on board. This is to put the power behind that peace of mind and overcoming objections so that you can close that sale with those folks who come to you and say glaciers are the most important reason that they're coming up to Alaska. And I think
Absolutely.
this is industry leading, Rob, and it's such a great program.
I agree. We're the only ones with the Glacier Guarantee. I said that, people go to Alaska for glaciers. We just covered that. And they also go to Alaska for wildlife. And we have more wildlife and wilderness tours than any other cruise line in Alaska. Have you been able to see a lot of wildlife when you've been up in Alaska, Megan?
I haven't. I just recently, when I was on board, we did the walk around with the naturalist on board when we were doing Stevens Passage and saw 13 whales just in that morning before we'd even got into port. And this is a part of it, is the access to our shore excursions, in which we have more than 175 options, both on our cruise tours in port, our cruise tours and our shore excursions in port. But really, we've brought on experts so that we can highlight that experience from our ships, because they are built to see the wildlife from the ship as well when we're doing just our cruising into Juneau, for example. And one of my favorites really is when you get to Ketchikan, you can go out to one of the bear viewing platforms
Yeah.
and it's right there on the river. The bears are in the wild. Sometimes they wander up to the platform, but the pictures here are incredible. And it is just amazing to see the bears as they come out for the summer, starting to bulk up for the winter, and be able to really take good pictures and see them in their natural habitat feeding and what they do every day.
You know, you're right, Megan. If you want to see bear, we have excursions in our ports. If you want to see the marine mammals and wildlife, we have excursions in all of our ports. But for me, the most more memorable experiences viewing wildlife were actually in the interior. I've seen a mother and her cubs right off the train tracks on our domed glacier, our domed rail cars. I have seen caribou. I've seen the Dall sheep, but that all requires you to go into the interior. And the more time you spend in the interior, the better chance you have to see wildlife. So we offer glaciers, we offer wildlife, but people also have the dream of getting to some of the United States' largest and most beautiful national parks in our system. And Alaska has four of the largest. So Denali National Park, Glacier Bay National Park, Kenai Fjords National Park, and then Wrangell St. Elias National Parks, which abuts up against another region we're going to talk about, which is the Yukon region of Canada that, we'll get to. But Alaska, we do talk about Alaska, but that Yukon part of Canada is just a continuation of the beauty and of the wilderness that makes up the region. And that's why we take guests to the Yukon also. Do you have a favorite national park up in Alaska that you've been to?
Well, Denali always holds a special place in my heart. I think that just the access that we have with the national park tours that are already included and built into our Holland America Cruise Tour program, but the opportunity to really get above that tree line, which is where you really have access to see unimpeded those herds of caribou. We saw some moose, and we also saw a mom and cubs that were just off the side of the road. They were grazing on berries, and it really is spectacular to have the backdrop of Denali Mountain there. And it's amazing, like 6 million acres of this pristine wilderness when you get up into Denali National Park. It is just untouched and breathtaking.
It
What's
really
yours?
is. I'm with you on Denali. We do offer Denali on every one of our cruise tours. So a visit into Denali National Park, many of which include going on the Tundra Wilderness, which goes further into the park. It's a longer excursion. So we really do everything we can to give people the chance to have the best viewing and the best wildlife experience possible when they go into Denali National Park. And it's not a guarantee, but everyone is just wants to have that quintessential photo of Mount Denali when it clears out. And we can't guarantee, but we always hope that everyone gets that moment when they get to see Denali.
She is shy. I think they say only a third. So that means your clients are just going to have to go up there multiple times and visit Denali a couple of times.
That's true. That's true. So let's talk a little bit about the sort of the core of what gets people initially interested in Alaska, which is they hear about an Alaska cruise and sailing the Inside Passage, and it's got some romance and mystique. And we've been taking guests up to Alaska since 1947. We have been pioneering the combination of cruise and land experiences that we call a cruise tour. But we're going to take a few moments just to share the amazing program of 7-day cruises that we offer up in Alaska. So you can sail from either Seattle or Vancouver, and I have done both. Have you done both, Megan?
I have done both the round trip Seattle and the round Trip Vancouver, and I think they both offer such a different way. I mean, Sitka is such a neat little charming port of call that has not been commercialized and really has those really strong Russian roots, which makes it very interesting. But Skagway, when you go out of Vancouver, Skagway is one of my favorite ports, just the access to the train, the history there, the gold rush. I really
The
love both
boarded
of those.
side, the boarded sidewalks that are like you're going through a gold rush town.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite port there on either of those two?
Well, I have always loved the history of Russia, Russian America, which is based in Sitka. Sitka was the capital of Russia America before the United States purchased Alaska from Russia. So I love that there is an Orthodox the Orthodox church in Sitka that represents the Russian history in the region. So I think that's pretty unique. But whether you sail from Seattle or you sail from Vancouver, that 7 day round trip is a great way to experience, the southeast part of Alaska. Now, there is the other option, which is the one way between Vancouver and Whittier. Whittier is amazing because our guests get right off the ship and onto our rail cars and start their journey right there. And this is how we can mostly combine our cruise program with our land program to offer the cruise tours. And you do get to go up further into Alaska on these cruises. So, if you have 7 days though, and you could do that 7 day glacier discovery, but if you're going to go all the way up to Whittier, either at the start or finish, I think you ought to do a cruise.
Absolutely. And I think another great point for the glacier discovery is that it does have that 2 glacier viewings on those itineraries. So if you do have those folks who have a little bit more time, want to do the cruise tour, but then glaciers are a really important part of why they're traveling to Alaska. Each of those itineraries, northbound, southbound, do include Glacier Bay National Park. The northbound has College Fjord, which has multiple glacier experiences in that scenic day of cruising. And the southbound has Hubbard Glacier, which is the other of the really iconic glaciers. So if they are doing that land first on the cruise tour, coming down into the glacier discovery, they're going to get Hubbard Glacier, Glacier Bay National Park. So the two most iconic and beautiful glaciers that we have up in Alaska.
Yeah, I have not been to College Fjord in several years, but it was actually one of my most memorable days up in Alaska. You sail through Prince William Sound, down the fjord, but the glaciers are side by side, and I think there's 6 or 7 of them together. They're named after Ivy League universities, and they are just impressive to see them all together. So, you're right that you get a sort of a bonus and an expanded glacier experience when you do our glacier discovery. Well, that's why it's called the glacier discovery. For those that want to be on ship and spend more days, we do have some options. We have a 14-day option, and I think it's great that we can take guests all the way up to the largest city in Alaska, which is Anchorage, and dock right in town or right in the port there, which you don't do when you're on just a 7 day cruise. And these have really been popular. So we are going to offer 3 of them in 2026. We were doing 1, then 2, now we're up to 3. So these are very, very popular, and just gives people the chance to kind of really go in depth and see all of Alaska, all of the port options in Alaska in one experience. They don't have to pick and choose.
Yeah, it is wonderful to get into those smaller communities too, because they have such a unique charm and they don't get as many visitors because larger ships just can't get into dock there. So the fact that we're able to highlight Kodiak and Valdez is amazing, particularly if you've had folks who've been up to Alaska before, they really love Alaska and they want to experience more. These are great itinerary options for them. But I think the next one that you were going to show is by
I
far my
am.
favorite and my dream trip.
You know, when we announced this for 2024, I think it was our first sailing in the 2024 season that sold out. We offered it again for 2025. If it's not sold out, it's very close. And then we're offering it again in 2026. So why don't you tell us about the special experience that we have, that we offer, that coincides with the summer solstice in the June 2021 time period?
I just absolutely love this itinerary. It is 28 days sailing round trip out of Seattle, getting into those mainstay ports of call like Juneau, Ketchikan. There's lots of glacier viewing. But where I think this itinerary really stands out is the fact that it gets up to that Arctic Circle. So Dutch Harbor, if you have any fans of the Discovery Channel, Deadliest Catch, they're going to love getting into Dutch Harbor. And then up into Nome, which of course is the birthplace of the Iditarod, so much history and unique history to Alaska. My aunt actually did the 2024 on this one, Rob. She flew over from Australia to do the 28-day. And one story that she told me that just really captures, I think, why this is such an important itinerary and why it's so great that we offer it. In Nome, they normally have a fall festival that happens in late September. Because the ship was coming in June, the town actually moved the festival into June so that they could celebrate when our guests were there. And so they did
Wow.
this festival like in the middle of summer so that they had more people there to participate. But one of the things that really stood out about that was all the local artisans that came out and brought their wares and things that they had crafted themselves, and the opportunity to get those unique souvenirs and memorabilia for the cruise. But I think the biggest bragging rights, of course, is that opportunity for on the summer solstice to be on the Arctic Circle. So if you have those travelers who always want those bragging rights and something that no one else has ever done, this is a great itinerary for them because they are going to see places that are not often visited and get those really unique experiences.
Yeah, it's the land of the midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. side. It, like the sun never sets. So that is just incredible. So this is one that we will sell out, and we will sell out early. It is a special, and it also goes into our legendary voyages category, which are longer round trip sailings from a North America port that we are becoming well known for. Now we can talk about the base of a cruise, but if you really want to see the heart of Alaska, the cruise tour. And, they're just, I think sometimes people think they want to go to Alaska, and there's education you have to offer a first timer. And there's so many people who their first cruise is to Alaska that they may come in and say, I want to take a cruise to Alaska. And their expectation is they're going to see Denali, they're going to go on the rail car, and they're going to have this experience to see everything that's in the interior, because people often sort of loop it all together going to Alaska on a cruise. But you really have to make sure they understand that, it's worth it. One, take your time. And two, you need the time if you're going to see everything the cruise route has, plus everything that's in the interior.
Absolutely. And I think that that is the one thing we hear most when people come back and have done even just maybe a 2 night in Denali, that they wish they had more time. And this is where our expertise is the travel industry to really help guide them and understand what their expectations are and also what their hopes and dreams are about travel. Because, I mean, really, that's what we deal with. We deal with the potential memories. So being able to guide them and not being afraid to encourage them and upsell them into more days or into the cruise tour opportunity is really going to be critical for their overall satisfaction and for that expertise that you can offer and looping them in so they always come back to you for their travel needs because you have enhanced their experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we talked about glaciers, we talked about wildlife and wilderness. I think another reason people really should visit Alaska with Holland America Line is what we do with Denali. One, it's our property up there, the Holland America Denali Lodge, that continues to be evolved and have amazing accommodations and experiences. It delivers that true wilderness, the mountains around you, access to the park. But we also are building more time into our cruise tours, so people, it's not a stop overnight, quickly see sights and run. You'll miss the amazing part of Denali, which is just taking time to be there. We're going to talk about, you can be there for one night or up to 3 nights with Holland America, and on that 3 nights you have you have a day to go and perhaps do some exploring, like whitewater rafting. I believe there's a day you should go into Denali National Park. I also think there's a day you should just spend on our Denali campus and enjoy. So I know you've been to our Denali campus. Tell us a little bit about it, Megan.
This is an incredible property. It's 60 acres on the banks of the Nanana River that overlooks the national park. So we're right there at the gateway to Denali National Park. And what we have set up here is a gathering place. So when people go up to Alaska, they want that wilderness lodge experience, and our campus here really lays that out in a way that you can walk around, experience that nature. We also make it very easy for folks to get around if you have anyone with mobility limitations. We have shuttles that come around and pick them up so they can get to Denali Square, they can get up to the main lodge. But really, as Rob mentioned, the key here is spending more time. So you'll have the rail car, you'll have the day doing the Tundra Wilderness Tour, but that extra day is so important to actually get in and experience the national park, visit the national park visitor center, which has incredible exhibits, talks about the history. They also have a dog kennel there, and they do several dog shows throughout the day. So you can learn about how, because during the winter they have no motorized vehicles doing the going around and doing the patrolling. So they do all of that by dog sled. And it's really interesting to hear how they keep the dogs, how they train the dogs, and what they do in the winter to patrol and go through and do their routes. So that's one thing that I really love about this opportunity, is that stepping into the wildlife and into the wilderness experience. Denali Square is one of my favorites though, Rob. I love sitting there listening to the live music, making s'mores. But what's so special to you about Denali Lodge?
I think it's where we bring Alaska alive for people, because we combine everything. If they want to experience Alaska cuisine and seafood, we offer it at our lodge. If they just want to be able to take time to see the scenic beauty and stroll down to the river, they can do that. The entertainment, but I also am really impressed over the last couple of years. We put a lot of investment into making the accommodations just really lovely for our guests with mini suites, and then we've upgraded many of our rooms into a suite category, adding a veranda to them, and stepping up the amenities that are offered in them with in-room coffee makers and other things. So we really do have an amazing, comfortable place for guests to take a stop and enjoy the interior of Alaska.
Yeah, the new Denali deluxe lodging is amazing, because you get to, for the suites and the deluxe rooms, you can sit outside and really take it. You can run over to Denali Square, grab a breakfast sandwich, go back and sit and just look out and take it all in. It is really peaceful and amazing.
They have great coffee in the coffee bar at Denali Square too. So one of the things that I do want to stop and highlight is that when our guests are either going from Denali to Whittier to get on the ship, or they get off the ship in Whittier to head into Denali, sometimes we have an excursion and a stop in Anchorage en route, but many go direct to Denali and get guests right from the ship right up to our campus up there. And we did custom build amazing rail cars that our guests get to experience in Alaska. The upper with the domes and the dome glass, so that they can have a 360-degree view. There's an outdoor platform they can step out on if they want to get some fresh air and be outside. There's commentary of what they're going to see along the way. I always love being on our rail cars.
I absolutely do too. The scenery is just incredible as you go through and you see the caribou herds wandering through the tundras. The narration that you talk about is so informative of the history of the railway, the history of Alaska. You go past, military facilities where they talk about, how they do training and stuff like that. So it's super interesting just to learn about Alaska itself. But also, there is a barista bartender on board, so it is a longer day on the train, but your clients are well taken care of as they're taking in that incredible scenery.
And we've talked a lot about Denali, but when the guests get off the train and they get to Denali or they start in Denali, if they do the 2 or 3 night stays that we're talking about, they go on the Tundra Wilderness tours into the park. On the one night, they will do the Denali Natural History Tour. So we're going to come back to that in a moment, but I do want to take a minute to talk about the other part of our of the region that we take people to. And oftentimes people, it's not that they don't love Alaska, but they are overwhelmed by the unanticipated beauty and history of the Yukon Territory.
I think what really stands out, Rob, to our clients and guests who get up to Dawson City is that it is like the unland replica of our sheep, refreshingly uncrowded. Denali is amazing, but there's a lot of people who go through the national parks in the summer. When you get up to Dawson, it's recently designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it has that rich history, that really in-depth Klondike Gold Rush story, but it also has that beautiful wilderness, the wildlife, great hiking. So you can step back, and it is like stepping back in history. You really do get to experience it with so many less people around. And I think that's one of my favorite reasons for getting up into Dawson City and why I feel like it's so charming. But I know you've been up there several times as well. What captures
I
your
have.
heart, Dawson?
I do like the lure of the gold rush era and how much history you learn. And from Skagway up the White Pass and what the purveyors and miners had to do to get up into the Yukon Territory just to start seeking gold and be able to stake a claim and strike it rich, like what they had to do and how much equipment they had to carry over the pass. It's a fascinating story. We do tell it in Skagway from that vantage point, or if you're in the Yukon, you can actually get right into where they were headed. So it's amazing. We've talked about a lot of different options for Alaska, and we sort of bucketed them out into the classic Alaska Denali experience, which it's the ones that are sort of, we just have you have time. You're going to do your 7 day cruise, and you just have enough time to do a maybe 9 to 11 day excursion up into the interior. Then the signature Alaska and Denali, which is 2 or 3 nights, which is a little bit longer and gets more in depth. And then the ultimate Alaska Denali, or you can go all the way into the Yukon. And we're going to talk about this. Now, again, these will be bookable November 7, just around the corner. But just to give everyone an idea of what we're talking about in terms of seeing it all, this is seeing all of the interior of Alaska, but then also having the option to go over to Dawson City with a full 7 day cruise between Vancouver and Whittier. And I really love this option, the convenience of getting to Fairbanks when you're in Fairbanks, flying over to Dawson City and back, and being able to drop into the Yukon Territory. It's a great way to see the entire region.
It really is. I love the layout of this new itinerary, particularly because I'm also a big fan of Fairbanks. This is a really neat little town, again, very charming. Has its own dog sledding race, the Yukon Quest that goes between Fairbanks and Dawson City, so a lot of history there as well. But the ability within 2 weeks to get your 7 day cruise and then get your clients in and experiencing all of these wonderful wilderness areas up in the interior is just a great flow and a lot packed into those 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a great 13-day program. Let's cover some of the basics, or just sort of lay out what what advisors may need to know to sell our product. If someone wants to see Denali and they want to do they want to make sure that they cover their bases. These are the tours in three of our categories that are just samples. And you can do this either at the start with the land at the beginning or the cruise at the beginning. People always seem to have a preference or want to know which one is better. I actually think it can go either way. I don't think it's necessarily as arduous on land, especially when you're slowing down and spending 2 and 3 nights in Denali, to make a big difference between whether you put the cruise or the land first. I think people underestimate how much there is to do on a ship and think it's all about relaxation, but that's not always the case. Do you have an opinion on that, Megan?
So for me, what I generally recommend is, what are people interested in glacier-wise? If they're first time to Alaska and they want those two iconic glacier experiences, I recommend the land first so they can get Hubbard Glacier and Glacier Bay National Park. If they are really keen on getting back up to Alaska, maybe they did a 7-day cruise last time, they want to see more of the glaciers and get into the interior, then I like the northbound for that, because as you mentioned, College Fjord, it's the only place in the Americas where you can have 3 glaciers around you at one time. So just from a experience standpoint, like, that is amazing for anyone who's really interested in that glacier experience and has maybe done Hubbard Glacier in the past. So it really depends on your clients, but there is, as Rob said, there's no bad answer for this, because they are both incredible and they just really can tailor to what your client's needs are.
Sure. And as you can see, the classic has 1 night, the ultimate has 2 nights, and then the signature has 2 or 3 nights in Denali, depending on which tour. Because we do have a number of tours and there's variation, so it does take some planning or some time to look and match up what it is best for your clients. Now, I always think an advisor is well suited to have 1 or 2 tours that they know from the moment they get on the cruise until they fly home in Fairbanks, that they can explain. It should be their go-to. And if they can explain just 1 tour from beginning to end, everything else is a variation. So what I suggest is perhaps pick an ultimate where you encourage clients to take at least the 2 days in Denali. You can variation from that. You don't have to know all the combinations. Just pick one, and the rest you can quickly shift to. So moving over, we again have more Denali options, and these actually can combine with a shorter cruise of either 3 or 4 days, depending on whether you start or end in Skagway. Just really, really interesting cruise programs that we offer. And I don't know, have you actually had the opportunity to sail up north and move into the Yukon from one of our ships, or come through the Yukon and get onto the ship, Megan?
So I haven't done it on the 3 or 4 day program. I have done the 7-day with the cruise tour, which was just incredible. I will say, though, I love the fact that we do have this very unique option of doing 3 or 4 day cruises, because you will have people who are maybe, again, new to cruise, haven't cruised before, a little bit leery on the cruise aspect, but still want to get up and experience Alaska. This is like that best of both worlds, especially on that southbound, where they do the land first and get onto the ship in Skagway, go down to Vancouver, because they will get Glacier Bay National Park on
Absolutely.
that. So they're going to get their land experience, their wilderness, their wildlife. They'll get the Yukon, and then they'll also get the glacier. So this is a great option for those who maybe also don't have as much time, but still want to get the land experience in addition to the cruise experience. So it is really unique in the industry to have this 3-4 day option, and really have this one in your back pocket if you do come up against those objections of not having enough time, or just not wanting to spend as much time on board, but really wanting to get up and see these incredible parts of the world as well.
That's a great point. There we have all kinds of tools to help advisors figure out what is included on each of our cruise tours. Obviously, Megan and I aren't going to stop and go through this one, but this is the type of asset that we will put on one source so that you can have a reference guide to work with your clients on the best option. And it lays out and it's easy to pick out what is offered on each of our routings up to Alaska. You know, for us, our love for Alaska at Holland America has no bounds. We want people to be able to discover Alaska. We want them to be able to taste Alaska. We are the only cruise line that offers sustainable seafood, and we are certified. So we're going to talk about that. And we want them to experience Alaska. So, you know, some of the ways we want them to discover Alaska is we really embed that programming that is Alaska-centric from start to finish. And I know that you've been on board and experienced this, Megan. So would you give us some of the highlights?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things about our Discover Alaska is the efforts we take to open up the destination on board as well as on shore. So this really ties into our onboard programming that highlights things like the giants of the Pacific Northwest. Before we get into the whale corridor, we will do a talk about whales so that your clients can really understand their habits, what whales come up at different times of the year, things like that. So when they go on their whale watching experience, they already have that base knowledge, and it really enhances their experience because they're not wondering what they're doing. They'd already learned about it. So those are the types of things that we incorporate in. Unique history. I mentioned the Iditarod. We have a talk about the Iditarod, from the history of it, of why it started to how it's evolved today to be this such iconic race, and the volunteers that make it happen, the mushers and how they train their dogs. We talk about the women bush pilots, things like that really, again, are unique to Alaska and enhance the onshore experience because you are learning more about what makes Alaska so unique and so different and how people live up there. And that's one of the things that really stands out to me. And I mentioned I had a fam group on in August, and this was some of the top feedback I got, was just how much they understood and knew Alaska and felt like it was a very seamless ship to shore experience, because when they got on shore, they understood, and it just made it so much better for them, and they came away with so much more knowledge. The other point is we've just added again the naturalists, and so we do have designated times in which we know there are more activity for wildlife and bird life, and that is announced in advance. So your clients are going to be able to plan their day to make sure that they are optimizing that wildlife experience when they're just on the ship and doing scenic cruising, or just transferring to the next port, as well as on port as well. So it really has enhanced our onshore experience.
And we have made a move with our culinary program to have destination dining where we infuse the local flavor and the local cuisine into the meals that we offer to our guests on the ship. And nowhere do we do that better than in Alaska. I love this because we have leaned in on fresh, sustainable seafood. We are certified by the Responsible Seafood Management organization that has certified us, and all of our seafood in Alaska is sustainable, traceable. So we are really committed to the ecosystem in Alaska, but it also means we are offering our guests the freshest seafood possible. We do it in other places, and that's for another talk on Holland America Line, but we do it so well here. We do it so well here. Talk about, we even go down to glacial ice cocktails. How do we do that, Megan?
Oh, so this is a wonderful new addition, and highly rated by my husband from our personal vacation this summer as well. He tried them all, but we have worked with a company that harvests the ice, the glacier ice, after it has calved from the glaciers. So this is all certified, all traced as well, prepared, bought on board for us. And we have worked with an amazing mixologist to come up with some really unique themed cocktails that are available in our ocean bar that do incorporate this glacier ice in there. This is really neat too, because if you have clients who do maybe have mobility issues, they do want to have that drinking of glacier ice experience, but maybe don't want to get in the helicopter and have to hike on the glacier for it. They can just sit in the ocean bar and enjoy it there and still, get those bragging rights that they've had their glacier ice experience.
So many things we've talked about is the many ways we bring Alaska to life for people, and we really want them to experience. No one could see all the best of Alaska by staying on our ships. They have to get off the ships. They can get off in port and do a shore excursion, which we're going to talk about here for a minute, or go inland and do the cruise tour. But we really do want people to have amazing experiences, and that is getting into a sea kayak and paddling through amazing waters around the ports we visit, strolling through Skagway and getting on the White Pass and Yukon Railway up to the White Pass and back. With the dog mushing and the huskies, and getting up close with that the culture around that. There's so many excursions that we offer.
I think this really goes back, Rob, to our 77, 78 years that we've been sailing up to Alaska and the partnerships that we've built on land for these shore excursions. We have really things that are available to any interest, whether it's photography, whether it's a little bit more adventurous, the wildlife aspect, culinary, craft beers. There is something for everyone that is going to cater to their, interests and their hobbies, so that when you get on shore, you really can make the most of that experience and tailor it and very much customize it to what interests you and what you want to see there. And that's, I think, a great part of our program, that we do have all of those options available to experience Alaska.
And we haven't talked about this, but I think Alaska is one of the best destinations to take kids. If you want to see delight and give your child or your extended family, the children in your extended family, a once in a lifetime or a life changing experience, it's in Alaska. For them to see, if you've taken a child to a zoo, it's like taking them on steroids when they actually get to see all of this wildlife in their natural habitats.
Absolutely. And One Holland America, one of our fastest growing demographics is our multi-gen families. For that exact reason, is it's a great place to bring families to connect. They can spend time together and they can take advantage of our amazing kids program as well.
Megan, thank you for all of your expertise on Alaska. I'm going to ask you to help me share just some of the core components of Holland America that underpin everything people will experience in Alaska that we do that is uniquely Alaska. Because the Holland America Line experience, for someone that's worked for the company for 25 years and grew up sailing on the ships, has always been, can stand alone, stand by itself, even aside from an amazing destination. So with our dining program, and we have leaned in on our global fresh fish program, where we are sourcing sustainable fresh fish from around the world in ports to get fresh fish from the port to the plate in 48 hours. That's just one of the commitments we've made to dining. But up in Alaska, we have our complimentary dining. We have specialty dining. All of our ships have a Pinnacle grill and a Canaletto, where our guests can experience either a Pacific Northwest steakhouse or an amazing Italian dinner. I really am. I think our culinary program is often unknown and underrated, and I think it surprises and delights.
Absolutely. And I think Alaska is a great example of this. Like some of the complementary things that we have added that have really highlighted those local Alaska flavors, like the Alaska brunch that we do on sea days. So these are things that use like the berries that are grown in Alaska. We have reindeer sausage. So different menu items on this brunch that goes really from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. most days, most sea days. It really gives you that opportunity to go in and showcase those delicious Alaska flavors. And we've also incorporated that into our main dining and Lido dining menus with the fish, the catch of the day, the fresh fish options that are part of that port to plate. And these really highlight like the halibut and the salmon and all of those incredible flavors. In addition to that, we also work with the local brew companies in that, and we'll also bring on local Alaska beers. So there is really those opportunities to get all of the senses there when you're having the dining experience and tasting those local ingredients as well.
And to stay mindful of our time, I do want to point out that we have plenty of activities. We've talked about all the ways they can get out and experience Alaska, but we are the official cruise line of the Professional Pickleball Association, and pickleballers are flocking to Holland America Line. So if you have clients that are pickleball enthusiasts, please ask them to consider Holland America Line, because we have pickleball courts and an athletic director on every one of our ships to work with our guests and arrange that. It's a great time to book Alaska 2026 because it's when we have our most attractive offer out for early booking. We have it all fares, which include specialty dining and a shore excursion credit, our signature beverage package, as well as a Wi-Fi package. If they do have it all, we layer on the elite or premium version of all of that for guests, and that is included as the early booking bonus. So Megan, this really is rich, and we are seeing just amazing record levels in Alaska. I think we got into June and July of the season, we had nothing left to sell for 2024, and we're already seeing quite a substantial increase in bookings for 2025. So 2026 is going to sell out fast.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you have folks who are traveling together as families, try and get them booked as soon as possible, but look to 2026 for those dates where you can have everyone align their calendar. But what is really important about Have It All is, and especially the early booking bonus, is this is your opportunity to create that urgency because it is such a rich amenity program. They will be able to lock in their price, lock in their veranda, and make sure that they get a veranda because you definitely want that, but get those elevated amenities and the crew appreciation, which is such a high perceived value. But you can tell them, we're booking out, and this is the best amenity program to help you close those sales.
In addition to booking your individual guests, we encourage you to consider booking a group. And we have a connections group program, which are for small groups of 24 or fewer, but they also come with 1 for 10 tour conductor credits, which is a reduced, and you get 2 extra gap points, which are amenity points you can use for experiences on board or in some cases off the ship. And so we encourage you to set up connections groups through your business development manager or by calling our group's desk. And there's no deposit required. So that's amazing. And finally, to wrap up today, we are going to ask you to use this QR code to vote Holland America Line as best in Alaska. We hope after everything that Megan and I have shared, you agree that we really do offer the most in-depth, the most authentic, and the richest programs up to Alaska of any cruise line, whether it's on the ship or also going inland on our cruise tours. So I hope you will take a moment to vote for Holland America Line by using the QR code. And we are always available. Our business development managers and the rest of our sales team, we are always here for you. And we are so grateful for everything you do to sell and promote Holland America Line. And Megan, I'm just so grateful for your time today to share your expertise and your wisdom around Alaska. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about Alaska, because I always love talking about Alaska.
I think we're about out of time. And if people fielded any or submitted any questions, we'll make sure to get back to them. So from Megan and Rob, we want to say thank you for joining us for this overview of our 2026 Alaska.
Robin, Megan, thank you so much on behalf of CLIA and our attendees for your time this afternoon. You definitely did show us Alaska in a different way. I am excited about Alaska, and I will definitely be looking into possibly my next cruise with Holland America Line, because you all just speak about Alaska as if it's a whole new world, and it definitely it looks like it. And so I hope that our attendees learned a lot about Holland America Line and what Alaska has to offer, and hopefully they will be seeing a lot more clients on board Holland America.
Thank you so much. And we are, again, so appreciative to have the chance to offer this through CLIA and to all the advisors who support us all.
Sure. And everyone have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.